Welcome to the Marc Silber Show, Advancing Your Photography, where we bring you tips from remarkable photographers about how to take photographs you love.
I'm Vincent Laforet. I'm a commercial photographer and director and DP based in Los Angeles. Previously, I worked at the New York Times for 6 years, where I was part of a Pulitzer Prize winning team that covered 9/11. I've also worked for a majority of magazines around the world, and I now shoot films and videos and commercials with a new breed of HD SLRs. And it's been an exciting few years, so please come and join us for a few minutes with an interview with Marc Silber.
All right. Hey, Vince, thanks for inviting us to your studio.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming.
Okay, so now tell me about your approach to photography and the type of work you really love to do.
I guess the best way I can answer that is that my approach to photography is based on trying to make a different image every time that I pick up a camera. I'm someone who gets bored very quickly. I hate repeating myself, and I hate repeating what I've seen others do. And I've always had a very basic rule, especially when I was working at newspapers, which is if this image bores me, it's going to bore the audience.
Sure.
So if I'm not interested in it, if I'm not vested in it, I move on. And I've got this little saying that I maybe someday will coin, which is taking great pictures is about all the bad pictures you don't take. I've got to formulate that a little bit better. But I guess what I'm trying to say is it sounds simple at first, but don't waste your time making mediocre images or okay images. Keep moving until you find that dynamite image.
So,
yeah.
Can we put some practicality in terms of how do you get that dynamite aha image? What are some specific things that you would say are tips?
I think the best tips I have for people in general is to put the camera down. The vast majority of people that are photographers are photographing things that aren't going anywhere. Kids being one exception, or sporting events. And the whole idea is to put your camera down and walk around for a bit and ask yourself, what really is special about this place? What really is special about this person that I'm taking a portrait of? Mm-hmm. Perhaps a 5-minute conversation is in order before I ever pick up a camera. What is the history of this location that I'm at? What is the best time of day to do this time-lapse series? Where do the shadows fall? I guess I came to this conclusion from being a photojournalist at the New York Times for 6 years, where I would basically have to break down the news of the day or of that event into one image. So that entire 8, 10, 12, 18-hour day had to be broken down to one image, because the New York Times at the time only had so much space. They wouldn't run 2 or 3. It wasn't a picture package. You couldn't tell it with 2 or 3 images. What's the one image that's going to capture the essence of the event? And I think that speaks true to just about any photograph. Anything you make a photograph of, don't take it, make a photograph.
Right.
I think it's a very important, don't shoot things. Make photographs, because you're an author, ultimately, when you become a good photographer. You are an auteur, a fancier way of saying that, and you're looking for things that are different and that stand out, and trying to capture that.
All right, what are some of the key points that you use every time you pick up a camera, or even before you pick up a camera?
Yeah, photography and filmmaking, by the way, to a much greater degree, so much of it happens before you ever get to the scene, and that's kind of the unspoken truth. People see, the sexy photojournalist, pulling up to a war zone with his jacket in the middle of things, or the fashion photographer in mid-flight, as he's taking the picture, talking to the model. No one shows you the photographer or the photographer's assistants packing that gear a day or two in advance and checking it and making sure that the batteries are fully charged, there's a spare set, that nothing's broken, or that what was broken on the last shoot has been repaired in time. Basically, prepare.
Right.
Have your cards ready. Have your batteries charged. Think about what lenses to bring. Think about what tripods to bring, or if you need a tripod. I own a lot of gear. We went to Italy with 21 cases of gear, over 1,000 pounds. That's a lot of insane amount of stuff. This was for a video production. But every single one of those pieces of gear we used, without exception. We left a lot here too. When you bring too much, you slow yourself down. You're no longer nimble. and you miss pictures because of it. When you don't bring enough, you don't have the tools. Therefore, you need to think a lot about that before any shoot is, what do I expect to find where I'm going? What do I think I'm going to want to photograph? Do your research, and don't show up and realize that there's some amazing sea lions that are 500 yards off the shore, and that the longest lens you brought is a 20 millimeter lens. Do your research and know you're going to need a 500 millimeter lens and a converter, and that you'll never pull out your 20 millimeter. But photography is about research, and I think it's a tough one because most photographers like the idea, I think, of just jumping out in the morning or mid-afternoon and just finding images. And I think that's what separates a professional from an amateur, is that an amateur is okay. They don't have to come back with anything. They're going out to have fun. It's a hobby. Whereas a professional is expected to come back not only with something that's usable, but something that's exceptional. And that's where the pre-planning comes into effect. You know, it's all about asking all those questions, all the things that could go wrong prior to anything happening.
Okay, how about as far as when you arrive at the shoot, a step-by-step?
If it's a person, I make sure that there's a rapport that is created, and my job is to relax them. There's no one in the world that hates having their photograph taken more than myself. So I respect that with other people, and I usually say something to that effect. And I make sure not to waste their time and be ready, and only call them in when I'm ready. And then simple for any photographer is, let's get the basics down. What's your shutter speed and why? Do you need to freeze motion or do you need motion blur? What's your aperture and why? Do you need a lot of depth of field or very shallow depth of field? Then your ISO will kind of be determined by those two factors. Then what lens? What do you want to include in the frame or exclude? That's how I choose my lenses, is not only how tight I want, but also the relationship of foreground to background. The wider angle lens that you use, the more distorted the foreground will be, and the more compressed it will be if you use a telephoto lens. A wide angle distorts and also emphasizes the foreground and de-emphasizes the background. So all these are decisions you got to know. These are tools in your toolbox, and get the technical down. Format your card. Make sure your battery is good to go, and then frame, and then let things happen.
Cool.
So, but it is a very, at least for me, step-by-step approach.
So Vince, we're all looking for that dynamite image you were talking about with an emotional impact.
Yeah.
So how do you draw that out of the subject that you're working with?
I'm constantly on that edge, and I'm in constant search of that image. And once you capture it, you know that you have it. Right. Your standards, I think, get higher and higher and higher. So these days it's not uncommon for me to come back from a shoot saying, "No, it's okay." And 3 weeks later coming back and saying, "No, that's a pretty beautiful image." Mm-hmm. You know, I set pretty high standards because I've been doing it for 20 years. The secret, I guess, to getting that banger of an image, as the Brits used to say.
Or the mojo.
The mojo, or the keeper, or you know, one of my editors used to say, "It's just not there, mate. It's just not there." You know, to get the one that is there is to give everything you have. I have been surrounded by some of the very best photographers in the world, literally, and there is one key secret that I've discovered. It's not talent, it's hard work. It's endless amount of hours, whether it's Anna Leibovitz, whether it's Heinz Klutmeyer, Sports Illustrated, you name it. They will be there half an hour to 3 or 4 hours before anyone else is, and leave hours later. When we go to the Olympics for the 100-meter final, it's a race that lasts less than 10 seconds. It starts at 10 p.m. on average. We get there at 5 a.m. to get the best spots and wait till 10 p.m. for the race.
How about lighting? Any particular tips in terms of getting that great lighting?
Lighting is you have to learn it. And I think the best first lesson you can do in terms of lighting is to do this exact setup we're at. Light with one light on a person, and don't move the light. Move yourself around that person and the exposure. And learn that with the exact same light, quality of light, where you photograph it from relative to your subject will give you drastically different results, and how you expose for it.
Vince, any final tips for photographers who just want to get better images?
Yeah. On the most basic level, a photograph is about something that happens here or here in your viewer's heart or mind. If you're able to elicit some sort of emotion or a thought, you've succeeded. So if you're looking through that viewfinder and staring at that flower, and it makes you feel the beauty of that flower or that scene or the bee that's buzzing around, take the picture. If the flower's not doing much, if the colors aren't right, if you're not feeling anything, move on.
Vince, thanks for joining us on Advancing Your Photography and for giving us an inside look at your world.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Be sure to join our Advancing Your Photography Club to have fun while learning photography. Also, check out our guest site for a closer look at their work. Tune in to our next episode of Advancing Your Photography. Until then, this is Marc Silber reminding you to get out and take photographs you love.